We interrupt this program to bring you this important message. All residents should seek shelter immediately.
The first time the Husky appeared in Officer Cole Bennett's headlights, he almost hit it. Not because the dog ran across the highway, because it was standing perfectly still in the middle of a snowstorm that should have buried it hours earlier. The second time he saw the animal that night, it was nearly 5 miles away, and somehow, despite the blinding wind, despite the freezing darkness, swallowing everything beyond the reach of his patrol lights, the same gray and white Husky was staring directly at him, waiting. By the third encounter, the dog wasn't just appearing anymore. It was trying to lead him somewhere. Every time Cole stepped closer, the Husky turned and ran into the storm. Every time he ignored it and returned to his cruiser, the animal came back. Again, and again, and again. The destination made even less sense. An abandoned church, sitting alone on a frozen ridge outside the tiny Alaskan town of Willow Creek, a church nobody had used in nearly 20 years. A church that should have been empty, but on the worst blizzard night Alaska had seen in nearly a decade, one determined Husky seemed willing to risk its life trying to drag a highway patrol officer toward it. And before the night was over, Cole Bennett would discover exactly why. The storm had arrived faster than anyone predicted. By late afternoon, weather warnings covered every radio channel across central Alaska. Wind gusts were expected to reach dangerous levels. Visibility would drop to near zero. Travel advisories urged residents to stay indoors. Most people listened. A few didn't, which meant state troopers and highway patrol officers would spend the night doing what they always did, trying to keep people alive. 38-year-old Cole Bennett had been wearing a badge for nearly 14 years. He knew Alaska better than most people ever would. He knew which roads drifted first. He knew which mountain passes became death traps during storms. He knew how quickly a simple breakdown could become a fatal emergency when temperatures plunged below zero. But what most people didn't know about Cole was that he hated winter. Not because of the cold, because of the memories. 6 years earlier, his younger brother Tyler had disappeared during a snowmobiling trip. The search lasted 11 days. They found the machine. They found tracks. They found pieces of equipment. They never found Tyler. The uncertainty never left. No funeral. No final goodbye. Just an empty space that remained frozen inside Cole year after year. That loss had quietly changed him. He still did his job, still showed up, still helped people. But somewhere along the way, he stopped expecting good outcomes. He stopped believing every missing person got found. He stopped believing every story ended well. The storm outside his windshield that evening felt like every other storm. Just another shift, just another dangerous night, until he saw the Husky. The dog looked healthy despite the conditions. Thick coat, bright eyes, strong posture, not a stray, not an animal weakened by exposure. Cole slowed his cruiser. The dog remained motionless. Snow whipped around its body. The animal stared directly at him. Then it turned and disappeared into the darkness. Cole shook his head, probably escaped from somebody's property, maybe frightened by the weather. He radioed the sighting and continued north. 20 minutes later, he found a pickup truck stuck in a drift. The driver was unharmed. By the time assistance arrived and the vehicle was cleared, another hour had passed. That was when he saw the Husky again. Same markings, same eyes, different location. This time the dog stood beside a highway sign, almost 5 miles from where he had first encountered it. The animal waited until Cole slowed, then it ran. Not randomly, purposefully, as if checking whether he was following. Cole frowned. The dog vanished into swirling snow. For reasons he couldn't explain, the encounter stayed with him. Something about the animal's behavior felt deliberate, not panicked, not lost. Intentional. Still, he had other priorities. Multiple accidents had already been reported. The storm continued worsening. By nightfall, visibility dropped below 50 feet. The world beyond his windshield became an endless wall of white. Hours passed. Emergency calls increased. A stranded motorist. a jackknife delivery truck, a family trapped in a roadside cabin after losing power. Cole handled each situation methodically, professional, focused. Yet the image of the Husky kept returning. Then, just after midnight, dispatch transmitted a message that changed everything. An elderly resident reported seeing a dog near Old Mission Ridge. The description matched the Husky. Ordinarily, that wouldn't matter. Except Old Mission Ridge contained only one structure, the abandoned church. Cole immediately recognized the location. The building sat isolated several miles from the nearest occupied property. No utilities, no maintenance, no regular visitors, just a forgotten piece of local history slowly surrendering to Alaska's wilderness. The report should have been insignificant, yet something about it bothered him. Why would a dog remain near an abandoned church during a blizzard? And why had it appeared repeatedly along his route? Curiosity alone wasn't enough to justify a detour, but instinct was. Years of patrol work had taught Cole to trust uncomfortable feelings. So he turned west toward the ridge. The drive took nearly 40 minutes. Conditions deteriorated with every mile. Snowdrifts swallowed portions of the road. Wind hammered the cruiser. Several times he considered turning back. Then movement flashed through his headlights. The Husky, again, standing beside the road, waiting. This time, the dog didn't run immediately. Instead, it approached the vehicle. Cole lowered his window slightly. Freezing air rushed inside. The Husky stared at him. Then it looked toward the ridge, looked back, and trotted away. The behavior sent a strange chill through him. Not fear, recognition. As though the animal genuinely wanted something. Cole stepped from the cruiser. The cold hit instantly. The Husky moved ahead, stopped, looked back, moved again, waiting, leading. The abandoned church sat atop a rise overlooking miles of wilderness. By the time Cole reached the property, snow had accumulated halfway up the structure's front steps. The building looked like a ghost buried beneath winter. Broken windows, weathered wood, sagging roof lines. Nothing about it suggested life, yet the Husky became visibly excited. The animal circled the church, whined, returned, pulled away again. Cole followed. His flashlight beam cut through blowing snow. At first he saw nothing, then something caught his attention. Tracks, human tracks, fresh. Partially filled by drifting snow, but unmistakable. Someone had been there recently. His pulse quickened. The tracks disappeared around the rear of the building. The Husky bounded ahead. Cole followed. Behind the church, he found a second set of tracks. Smaller, possibly belonging to a child. A knot formed in his stomach. The storm had already erased much of the evidence. How long had they been there? Hours? Minutes? He moved faster. The dog began pawing frantically at a drift beside the church foundation. Snow sprayed everywhere. Cole stepped closer. At first he thought he was looking at debris. Then he noticed fabric, a backpack, half buried. He dug it free. Inside were school notebooks, a flashlight, energy bars, and a name, Emma Grayson. Cole immediately recognized it. 14-year-old local resident. Her family lived outside Willow Creek. His stomach dropped. He grabbed the radio. Dispatch responded instantly. The answer that came back changed the entire situation. Emma Grayson had been reported missing earlier that evening. She never returned home after visiting a friend. Search teams had planned to begin operations at first light. But first light was still hours away, and temperatures were falling rapidly. The Husky started moving again, whining. Insistent. Cole's attention snapped back. The dog wasn't finished. It sprinted toward the church entrance. The front doors were frozen partially open. Inside, darkness swallowed everything. Cole entered cautiously. The air smelled of dust and old wood. Snow had blown through broken windows. The sanctuary stood empty, yet the dog continued deeper, past rows of decaying pews, toward a hallway behind the altar. Cole followed. The building creaked beneath the storm. Every sound seemed amplified. At the end of the hallway, the Husky stopped beside a narrow staircase descending underground. Cole shined his flashlight downward. The basement. He moved carefully. Each step groaned beneath his weight. At the bottom, he found signs of recent activity. Blankets, food wrappers, portable lanterns. Someone had been using the basement recently, very recently, but nobody was there now. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Why would someone shelter inside an abandoned church? Where was Emma, and why had the Husky brought him here? The dog suddenly raced toward a corner room. Cole followed. Inside, he found maps spread across a table, weather reports, emergency supplies. Everything appeared organized, planned, not random. Then he noticed photographs, dozens of them. The pictures showed local wilderness trails, remote cabins, old mining routes, the kind of locations survival enthusiasts often explored. One photograph froze him. Emma appeared in the background, alive, smiling, standing beside an older man. Cole immediately radioed for information. Dispatch identified him as Walter Reed, a retired outdoorsman who occasionally volunteered at community events. No criminal record, no history of violence, nothing alarming. Yet somehow Emma had ended up connected to him, and now both appeared missing. The mystery deepened. The Husky refused to settle. The animal paced relentlessly, whining, scratching at another door. Cole opened it. The room beyond contained a radio setup, batteries, generators, communication equipment, far more sophisticated than expected. Someone had transformed part of the abandoned church into a functioning emergency shelter. Suddenly, a possibility emerged. Maybe this wasn't a crime scene. Maybe someone had been helping stranded travelers. Maybe Emma came willingly. Maybe Walter Reed wasn't the threat. But if that was true, where were they now? The answer arrived unexpectedly. A weak transmission crackled through one of the radios, barely audible. Cole rushed forward. Static filled the room. Then a voice emerged, faint, broken, desperate. Someone requesting help. Coordinates followed. Cole copied them immediately. The location sat nearly 8 miles north in mountainous terrain, far beyond safe travel conditions. The transmission ended abruptly. Silence returned. Cole stared at the coordinates. The Husky stared too, as if already knowing. Dispatch confirmed something startling moments later. The coordinates matched an abandoned forestry outpost, a location Walter Reed occasionally visited. Now the pieces began forming a picture. Walter, Emma, the church, the shelter, the radio, the dog. But one critical question remained unanswered. Why had the Husky spent hours trying to reach him? The answer finally came from Emma's mother. During a radio conversation, she revealed a detail nobody had mentioned earlier. Walter Reed owned a Husky, a rescue dog named Atlas. The same dog standing beside Cole. Everything clicked. Atlas belonged to Walter, which meant the dog hadn't randomly found the church. Atlas had been trying to bring help. The realization transformed the entire mystery. This wasn't a dog protecting territory. This wasn't strange behavior. It was a rescue attempt. Atlas knew people were in danger, and somehow, against impossible odds, he had located the one person capable of helping. The storm continued intensifying. Search teams couldn't reach the forestry outpost immediately. Road conditions were catastrophic. Air support was impossible. Waiting until morning might be too late. Cole faced a difficult decision. Risk everything now, or hope the missing people survived until daylight. Years earlier, he might have chosen caution. After Tyler disappeared, he had learned how precious hours could be, how quickly opportunities vanished. He wasn't going to wait. Using snow equipment stored at the church shelter, Cole prepared for the journey. Atlas seemed to understand immediately. The Husky became energized, focused, determined. Together they headed into the storm. The ride north felt like entering another world. Visibility vanished entirely. Wind screamed across frozen valleys. Several times Cole nearly lost the trail. Each time Atlas corrected course, the dog navigated with astonishing confidence, not supernatural instinct. Familiarity. Atlas knew the terrain, knew Walter's routes, knew where they were heading. Hours passed. The temperature continued dropping. Exhaustion crept in. Then Atlas stopped suddenly. Ahead, through blowing snow, a structure emerged. A forestry outpost, partially buried, dark, silent. Cole approached cautiously. The front entrance had collapsed beneath accumulated snow. His heart pounded. He called out. No response. Then a sound, faint knocking from inside. Adrenaline surged. Cole began digging immediately. Atlas joined him. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, they created an opening. Warm air escaped, and so did voices. Alive. Multiple voices. Cole squeezed inside. The scene stunned him. Walter Reed sat against a wall, injured but conscious. Beside him were Emma Grayson and 2 other stranded hikers. Everyone was exhausted, cold, hungry, but alive. The explanation unfolded quickly. 3 days earlier, Walter had discovered the hikers lost during worsening weather. He guided them toward safety. Then conditions deteriorated faster than forecast. The group became trapped. When communication systems failed, Walter sent Atlas, not toward town, toward the church shelter. The one place stocked with emergency equipment, the one location Atlas knew. Walter hoped the dog might somehow attract attention. It sounded impossible, yet Atlas had done exactly that. The Husky reached the church, found nobody, then began searching roads, searching for people, searching for help, eventually finding Cole. The truth was both simple and extraordinary. No mystery, no magic, just intelligence, loyalty, persistence. Atlas refused to quit. Rescue crews arrived several hours later after conditions improved slightly. Everyone was evacuated safely. The story spread quickly through Willow Creek. Residents couldn't stop talking about the Husky, who had crossed miles of blizzard-covered wilderness to save 4 lives. News crews arrived. State officials took notice. But the attention never seemed important to Cole. Something else mattered more. In the days that followed, he visited Walter frequently. The older man recovered steadily. So did Emma and the hikers. Life returned to normal. Yet Cole found himself thinking about Atlas constantly. The dog had succeeded where technology failed, where radios failed, where weather defeated everyone else. Atlas simply refused to stop. One afternoon, Walter shared a story. Years earlier, Atlas had been abandoned by previous owners. Malnourished, neglected. Nobody expected much from him. Walter took him in anyway, trained him, trusted him, gave him purpose. The same dog others once discarded had become the reason 4 people survived. The story struck Cole deeply because he understood what it meant to be haunted by loss, to carry invisible scars, to feel forgotten. In some ways, Atlas's journey mirrored his own. For years, Cole had carried guilt over Tyler. He blamed himself for not finding answers, not finding closure, not finding peace. The blizzard rescue forced him to confront something he had avoided for years. Sometimes doing everything possible is enough. Sometimes the outcome isn't within your control. And sometimes hope survives in places nobody expects. Weeks later, the abandoned church received unexpected attention. Volunteers restored portions of the building. Emergency supplies were expanded. The shelter became an official community, safety station for travelers facing severe weather. A forgotten structure gained new purpose, just like Atlas had, just like Cole had. Spring eventually arrived. Snow receded. Roads reopened. Life moved forward. But one final surprise remained. Walter made a decision. Age and injuries convinced him it was time to slow down. He could no longer care for Atlas the way he once had. There was only one person he trusted, Cole Bennett. The offer caught him completely off guard. At first he hesitated. Patrol work demanded long hours. Responsibility already filled his life. Then Atlas walked across the room and rested his head against Cole's leg. The decision made itself. Atlas went home with him that day. Months passed. The partnership became inseparable. Atlas rode along during patrols, visited schools, attended community events. Children adored him. Travelers recognized him. Residents proudly referred to him as the hero of Willow Creek. Yet the title never seemed to matter to the dog. Atlas remained exactly what he had always been: loyal, steady, watchful. One quiet evening near the end of summer, Cole parked beside a ridge overlooking miles of Alaskan wilderness. The same wilderness that had taken his brother. The same wilderness that nearly claimed 4 more lives. Atlas sat beside him. The setting sun painted the mountains gold. For the first time in years, Cole felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not because every question in his life had been answered. Not because old pain disappeared, but because he finally understood something. Tyler's disappearance had hidden from him. for too long. Hope isn't certainty. Hope is choosing to keep going even when certainty doesn't exist. Atlas had crossed a blizzard carrying nothing except that belief. The belief that if he kept moving, eventually someone would listen. And because one stubborn husky refused to give up, 4 people lived to see another sunrise. A forgotten church found new purpose. A wounded community found inspiration. And one highway patrol officer finally found a way to move forward. In a state where winter can feel endless and storms can erase entire roads overnight, people still tell the story of the Husky, who kept dragging a patrol officer toward an abandoned church. Some call it remarkable, some call it unbelievable, but the people who were there know the truth. It was simply the story of a dog who loved his people enough to keep searching until he found help. And sometimes that kind of loyalty becomes the light that guides everyone else home.